Part 3. The Economic Ripple Effect. What happens if more pastoralist families leave? Every major shift in agriculture eventually finds its way to the dining table. What begins as a family quietly packing its belongings in a rural settlement may, months later, be reflected in the price of beef in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Enugu, or Kano. That is why the reported relocation of some Fulani pastoralist families has attracted the attention of economists, food security experts, and policymakers. The question is no longer just about those leaving. The bigger question is, what happens if more decide to follow? Nigeria is home to one of Africa's largest livestock industries. Millions of cattle are raised, transported, sold, and processed every year. Behind every cow sold in a market lies an entire economic chain. There is the pastoralist who raises the animal, the transporter who moves it hundreds of kilometers, the livestock market where buyers and sellers negotiate, the veterinary workers who keep the animals healthy, the butchers who prepare the meat, the leather processors who turn hides into shoes, belts, bags, and industrial materials, the restaurants that prepare meals, the street food vendors selling suya, the families who depend on affordable protein to feed their children. It is an ecosystem that supports millions of livelihoods. When one part of that chain is disrupted, every other part eventually feels the impact. Now imagine that some experienced cattle breeders decide that remaining in certain locations is no longer worth the risk. Some relocate to other parts of Nigeria. Others move beyond Nigeria's borders. The immediate effect may seem small, but if such movements were to become more widespread over time, the consequences could become significant. The first area likely to be affected would be cattle supply. With fewer animals reaching some livestock markets, competition among buyers could increase. As supply falls and demand remains strong, prices often begin to rise. For ordinary Nigerians, that could mean paying more for beef. Restaurants could spend more on ingredients. Suya sellers might increase prices or reduce portion sizes. Families already struggling with inflation could find animal protein becoming even less affordable. But beef is only part of the picture. Nigeria also depends on cattle for milk production. Although the country imports much of its dairy products, local cattle contribute to fresh milk used by households and small businesses. Any sustained reduction in livestock production could place additional pressure on an industry that already struggles to meet national demand. The leather industry could also feel the effects. Nigeria has long been known for producing high-quality leather used in footwear, bags, furniture, and industrial products. Fewer cattle may eventually mean fewer hides for local processors, affecting manufacturers and exporters. Yet perhaps the biggest concern is food security. Food security is not simply about having enough food today. It is about ensuring that tomorrow's population can still access affordable, nutritious food despite economic shocks, climate change, or insecurity. Nigeria's population continues to grow rapidly. With millions of additional mouths to feed in the coming decades, every part of the agricultural system becomes increasingly important. That includes livestock. At the same time, experts caution against jumping to conclusions. The reports available today describe some pastoralist families relocating from certain communities, not a nationwide collapse of Nigeria's cattle industry. Nigeria continues to receive cattle from other regions within the country and through trade with neighboring countries such as Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Benin. Livestock markets remain active across many states. For now, there is no verified evidence that Nigeria is facing an immediate nationwide shortage of cattle because of these reported relocations. Still, the reports raise an important warning. If insecurity, cattle theft, farmer-herder conflicts, and mutual distrust remain unresolved, they could gradually discourage investment in livestock production. Young people from pastoral families may decide not to continue the occupation of their parents. Others may seek safer or more profitable livelihoods. Over time, that could reshape one of Nigeria's oldest economic sectors. Yet within every challenge lies an opportunity. Some agricultural experts believe this moment could accelerate the transition from open grazing to modern ranching. Ranching allows cattle to be raised in designated areas with reliable water, improved veterinary care, controlled breeding, and better feeding systems. Supporters argue that ranching can increase productivity while reducing conflicts over land. Others point out that establishing ranches requires substantial investment, secure land rights, technical expertise, and access to finance, resources that many small pastoralist families currently lack. The future, therefore, is unlikely to be determined by relocation alone. It will depend on the choices Nigeria makes today. Will security improve? Will trust between communities be rebuilt? Will governments invest in modern livestock systems? Will farmers and pastoralists find new ways to coexist peacefully? The answers to these questions will shape not only the future of the cattle industry, but also the price of food, the stability of rural communities, and the strength of Nigeria's agricultural economy. Because this story is bigger than cattle. It is about livelihoods. It is about food. It is about national unity. And ultimately, it is about the future of Nigeria itself. In the next chapter, we hear from all sides of the debate, the pastoralists, the farmers, government officials, and independent experts, to understand why this issue continues to divide opinions across the country.